Welcome to Ladies in Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kellye Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success. Hi, Lisa here with Dawn, and today we decided we would answer the most common questions that are asked of us in reference to starting a business. Everything from the good, the bad,
the ugly.
Yes, because there's definitely been some ugly. So I'm going to start off with the first question. Basically, the things that we're going to cover today are the foundation first, like setting up your business for success and the questions related to that. So first of all, Dawn, I want to ask you, when did you know you wanted to start your own business?
So I really had no intention of having my own business. I didn't want to go out on my own. I wanted to be a lawyer. That's one thing that I absolutely knew I wanted to do. And I wanted to be a partner in a firm at some point, but owning a business was not one of those things that I was just really excited about. You know, I never thought of myself as a business person. And then just opportunities arose that made sense in building what I was hoping would be a great law firm. So, it just I kind of flowed into it is really what happened.
Yeah, I can resonate with the opportunity presented itself. And so oftentimes when that strikes, you got to jump. And it was a challenge because same here. I had no desire to start my own business. I loved being a paralegal. I was an excellent paralegal. I cared about what I did. I cared about the people that I worked with. And I was an office rat. I didn't even want to be the person that packed up and took the attorney to trial. I loved working in an office. And once you have your own business, really that just is the last. You may be spending your time in the office, but you're also out and about and doing things. And for me, that cultivated the entrepreneurial spirit. So the very first thing I would say is that be looking for an opportunity. If somebody is making a suggestion that you would be good at something and maybe you have an inkling that you would like to try something new, because we have a similar experience, right?
We do. Yeah, we do. I mean, I think being open to the possibility of things that you haven't even envisioned, listening to those cues that you get from people that care about you, that make suggestions about, have you thought about this? You know, and Lisa and I talk all the time about having limited beliefs and trying to erase those limiting beliefs, because really you are so much more than you allow yourself to be until you really open up to those ideas. So how about you? What do you think is like the biggest foundational moment for you when you decided to go all in and start a business?
I would say the most aggressive movement was the support of my best friend and my husband, who were like, what do you got to lose? You could go back to being a paralegal if you don't like it. Honestly, that statement in and of itself was the thing that I did not want to happen, meaning I didn't want to fail. So if I was going to do it, I was all in and I was going to be a success and I was going to do whatever it took to be successful, because I kind of saw that if I didn't succeed, going back to being a paralegal I viewed that as a failure. So all in.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's another question that I get a lot is how do you deal with that fear of failure? You know, I mean, I have it. Absolutely. I know Lisa had it. I mean, I think that is part of being an entrepreneur, is having that fear of failure and really fighting through it. I mean, you've got these negative voices in your head about all of the things that can go wrong, but you have to really kind of try to silence them and think about the things that can go right. And always have a backup plan. I think having a backup plan is important, because if you're taking risks, if you're building things, if you're trying to do great things, then, there are things aren't always going to go your way. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have to revamp your plan. I think you have to make sure that you have a broad spectrum of options in making your business grow.
Yeah, and that lends us to the next question. How do you balance being routine and having a foundation with needing to make change?
That is a great question. So I think a lot of people really get stuck and resist change because change is scary. And when you're making a decision to really kind of step out of your comfort zone, and for example, if you're a one-person show, I know a lot of lawyers are thinking about going out on their own and starting your own firm. That is incredibly scary, right? There's overhead. Are you hiring a paralegal? Are you hiring a legal assistant? What does that look like? Setting up a company, all of those things are so hard, but you just take one step. Okay, so I'm going to set up an LLC or an LLP. I'm going to use whatever, Zoom, right? Legal Zoom to set it up. That's as easy as pie. Do you need somebody to start out with to help you with your calls and your emails and your appointments? Well, that depends on how much business you have to start out with. So I think you can grow slowly. It's just taking that first step.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of it depends on your personality too. So my personality was such is that I loved routine. I could eat the same oatmeal every day at the same time, show up at the office at the same time. I really didn't. I thrived on routine. But once you move into the environment wherein you're a business owner, change is constant. And you have to be open to it because there is different information coming in all the time. And then you have the creative types that like to stay in that state of change.
Me.
Yeah. So like we're opposites. You want to stay in the state of change. I was somebody that loved status quo, and I had to embrace pushing myself outside of status quo.
Yeah. And I think too is just wherever, we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different experiences that bring us to this step off of a cliff. I think is really, you're either going to fly or you're going to fall a little bit, but just, know that there are all kinds of things that you can do to prop yourself up, build your network, ask questions. The people that have done it before you, I think, I would be really hesitant to take advice from somebody that hasn't done something that you're trying to accomplish that's been successful at it. Seek out people in your field that have been successful at what they do and ask questions. Most of the time, I have never had a situation to where I've walked up and asked somebody a question about what they do and them look at me like I'm crazy. Most people are very welcoming. It's flattering if somebody comes up and asks you a question about how you see success, what you have done to build your brand, what you've done to build your business. I think you got to ask questions and know it's okay. You're going to make mistakes. Just keep on making mistakes, keep on making changes. You can always make another decision that's going to be a positive move if you fall backwards.
Yeah, there's a Thomas Edison quote, and I don't know it verbatim, but basically it says, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that don't work.
I love that.
Because that is true. Being an entrepreneur, there are more things that don't work than that do work, but you got to keep on. So I want to ask the next question of you. What, if you can think back to the very beginning, what surprised you the most your first year in business?
Well, I think probably being able to actually run a business. My partner and I, Curtis Kleinsmith, he is the business person. I think that we really complement each other because he is the business person and I, like to focus on the litigation. So I think just that, the responsibility, the weight of it all, when people rely on you for their paychecks, that feeling
huge. That's a huge feeling.
Is huge. So I think just having that responsibility, other people relying on you, I didn't realize that would feel so hard and so heavy and so important, I guess. Yeah. How about you?
That's a good. The thing in the very first year of business that I was surprised and challenged by was not having control over every aspect of it. You know, I was as a paralegal, I had my own caseload. I was responsible from beginning to end in many respects. But when I brought people in to assist me in the cases, if they didn't have it going on, I was just like, well, never mind. I'll just work longer hours that day. In business, if you want to grow, and especially in my business, court reporting, I'm not a court reporter. I ran the business, I drum up business, I worked the office, but I wasn't a court reporter, so I was not able to fill that role. So I had to learn to trust and cultivate those relationships with the court reporters so that they trusted me, I trusted them. And when we ended up in situations that were, you know, challenging or a pickle or things weren't going the way we needed them to, I had those relationships so that they would talk to me, and then, you know, I could follow up with the clients and work to resolve whatever the issue was. But really, it was like the things outside of my control was the biggest surprise that first year and the biggest challenge.
You thought you could control it all. You
Yeah.
thought you were just going to do it all.
That is so true. And, you know, you can't. And any business owner, if you want to grow your business, you have to find people that you trust and build relationships with them. You cannot micromanage them.
So that's, I think, that when we're talking about building a strong foundation today, right? You've got to build relationships. We talked about that. And you've got to learn how to delegate. I think that's probably the hardest thing that a lot of us struggle with, because it's your baby, it's your business, you're starting it out. You have a vision, which you have to have a strong vision to really have a successful business, that you can lean on that vision when you start kind of going sideways. But you've got to be able to delegate things. And yes, maybe you can do it great. Maybe you can organize all the exhibits the best way possible. But, you know, is your time going to be better spent focusing on getting ready for this witness as opposed to making the exhibit binders, right? You've got to be able to delegate things. And if people are doing B work, that's great. That works. You know, I mean, the people that you work for, it doesn't have to be perfect. And that relinquishing that control over, okay, well, I really can do this. I know I can do it. So I'm just going to do it. It's too hard for me to train somebody to do it. It's too hard for me to spend the time, take the time to train somebody to do it. That is just that thinking you have to get past. You cannot grow a successful business if you cannot delegate to other people that you trust, and you've got to take the time to train them and build those relationships with them so that they know that they can come to you and ask you questions, and that if they run into stumbling blocks, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I have this problem. Because the worst thing possible is you kind of send them out on their own, and then they're scared to ask questions, and then next thing you know, you've got this huge problem. So you got to learn how to delegate.
So in the beginning, can you think of one person that you felt you really learned a lot from, and what value did you find in that? Can you think back to who maybe really you were like, aha, this is my aha moment?
I really have a lot of respect for lawyers that have gone out on their own. Looking back, my first boss, my bosses, I guess I should say, the Cifarellis, Tom and Phil Cifarelli. I mean, they were so inspiring, and I didn't really realize, the business that they were creating while I was working there, and the systems that they put in place to make sure that we were providing A+ legal service. Back then it was different. We didn't even have OCR for medical records or business records or anything like that. I mean, we were going through things one piece of paper at a time, and just the way that they set everything up in such an environment that I could learn from. I really wanted to have a business like that. I mean, I think that it's so important for me, for the people that we work with, to feel like they are learning and growing, right? That they're becoming better lawyers, becoming better paralegals, becoming better at, the business aspects of our firm. That's really the culture that I want to create. And I think I learned that from my first firm.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I have a similar experience dating way back to before we were emailing everyone. So I started in court reporting in 1999, and there were 2 employees in the office. And then keep in mind, I had the employee mindset as well at that time, because I hadn't moved into any sort of partnership at that point. I was just working on earning my partnership. But when I started, Angie Culberson and Lisa Henson were in the office. And here was a huge, valuable teaching moment. So Angie was responsible for scheduling and billing, and Lisa was responsible for production. We didn't have phones that you could transfer anything. They sat in offices right next to each other. And I still remember being in the office and somebody would call and Lisa would say, "One moment, let me transfer you to the calendaring department." "Angie, so-and-so's on the phone." And Angie would run to, "Calendaring, this is Angie, may I help you?" And then the same would hold true. Like Angie would say, "Oh, one moment, let me transfer you to the production department." And then Lisa would answer. So the whole valuable moment is that it showed is that you can portray that you are bigger than what you are, and it did. It conveyed that we had to any client that called in that we had a huge operation with departments. And so that set in motion like that vision, and that's the way I would want to portray it when I was going out there and selling the business on the streets or talking to clients about it. And it just... prior to that, I was so employee mindset, thinking about what was in my box and what I had to take care of. And as an entrepreneur, that's when you're starting to cultivate an entrepreneurial spirit. You start thinking outside the box.
You do. You have to start thinking of all the blocks and how they fit together, as opposed to just that one block that you've been living in for so long. So yeah, I think, and I think really when we're talking about foundations, you've got to have those building blocks. What do those look like? What does this business look like? How do I see it as it's growing? And like you saw your business in departments, and you actually had departments. They were just, one person in each department. So I think that's, sit down, figure out what you want. Do you want to have some sort of a boutique firm to where you're partnering with other lawyers on cases, if you're working those together, or, if you're formulating some sort of a business that really fosters a community in law, right? I mean, there's so many AI companies now that are popping up all over the place that facilitate service to law firms. So there's so many different things you can do, but I think you've got to really sit down and figure out what your vision is for your firm or your business. What do you want it to look like? What are your core values? How do you want that experience? Like Lisa's business, when I first met her, when she, first started with our firm, the level of service that she gave to our firm, I was like, I'm always using her. Her company gave outstanding service. Calling, hey, somebody forgot to schedule a court reporter, calling at the last minute, just jumping through hoops to make sure everything's right. So when you have, maybe that's not the kind of business that you want to have, but when you're first setting something up, you really need to know what are your core values? What do you believe in? How do you want people to interact with your business?
That is so true. And I think the biggest component to that is make sure you're taking care of the people. And I think, we obviously need to make money because we have to pay those people. We have to be able to properly service the clients. But because I didn't have a business sense, and that cultivated over the course of time, and my core value was just making sure that I was taking care of the attorneys, the court reporters, the videographers, the office staff. And when you took care of the people, I felt like it just kind of worked itself out as far as the money was concerned. If I had a client that was incredibly unhappy with the way a job had went forward, a depot had went forward, even if they were never going to use me again, I would just say, okay, you do not have to pay for that transcript. No matter what, I wanted to leave them with the most positive experience working with my business, even if the actual depot setting itself didn't unfold the way that it needed to. And the core, when you start talking about those blocks, to me, the blocks of a business start and end with the people.
That's right. They really do. And I think you've got to look at those things. setting up an LLP is one thing, but you have, decided that you want to start a business. You've decided that you're going to go out on your own. You have somebody that you've decided you want to work with and you think you can do great things with. I mean, just sit down and see what you agree on, see what's important to you, see how you're going to react with people that you're servicing or people that you're working with, and really make sure that you rely on those, lean on those goals, those principles, those values as you're just growing and changing. Because as you change, you've got to have something to lean on, got to have something to pull on.
Okay, so we're going to have a little rapid fire here.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
So I've got
Kinda
a list.
terrified.
Yeah, I know. So just off the cuff,
Okay.
whatever comes to your mind. So the first one is, what is the one thing you wish you knew sooner?
I wish I would have known that I didn't have to do it all myself. I wish
that's good.
I wish I would have known that you can trust other people. You can rely on other people. You don't have to do it all yourself. You know, the sooner you realize that, the better off you'll be.
So mine would be, I wished I celebrated the wins. Like I was so concerned about the other foot dropping, you know, with an issue presenting itself since I wasn't controlling everything. So that would be mine. All right. What is a must-have tool or resource for a new legal entrepreneur?
People, right? We are in the business serving people. You have to have good people surrounding you that you trust, that you can rely on. It is, you know, what we do is so hard. Working with people, especially the people that we work with, families that have gone through catastrophic events, you know, their mother or father just suffering horrific injuries in nursing homes and just all of the trauma that goes along with that. If you don't have a team of people that are empathetic and really understand the needs of the clients and what we're trying to do, you can't move forward like you want. You have to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, and I'll just elaborate a little bit further. I think it's a mentor. You have to have a mentor. You have to have someone who's going to tell you objectively when you have an issue or something where you need to vent. You don't want somebody just agreeing with everything you say. You need that person who can look at what you're saying and convey to you whether you're right, you're wrong, or make suggestions.
Yeah, give feedback.
Yeah,
that's
on how to move forward.
I love that. That's really good.
All right, 3 more here. What is one piece of advice you would give someone starting their own legal business today?
That's a you. Well,
you want me to go first?
Yeah, you
okay,
go first.
because I know.
Yes.
I would say never ever discount any relationship that you have basically in your life. Now, we're talking about the legal environment, but one thing lends itself to another, and you just don't know where those roads are going to cross. And because I have a court reporting firm, I am building relationships at every level, from the accounting to secretaries, paralegals, attorneys, you name it, because you never know when somebody is going to leave one firm and go to another firm or another corporation. So you really need to make sure that you don't discount anyone's role.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that. I mean, I think one thing that I would embrace starting a new business is you're not going to know everything.
What?
And you can't
seriously,
yeah, and you can't plan for everything either. No matter how hard you try to map everything out, you're never going to be able to know exactly what's going to happen. So embrace the change. You've got to embrace the change.
What's a common mistake you see business owners make?
Back to delegation. Right?
Okay.
Holding on to everything and thinking that you have to do everything yourself. You've got to get rid of that. You've got to get rid of that limiting belief.
And I would also say being too competitive and not brainstorming with your colleagues.
Oh, yes. 100%. You got to rely on people around you.
Yeah, like it's a power trip. Like there's a concern that they're going to learn something, and whereas we could all learn from each other.
Collaborate.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
What does Kellye say? Collaborate instead of
compete?
Yes.
Yeah.
Collaborate instead of compete.
That's right.
All right. And we will end on this one. How do you maintain a balance between ambition and self-care?
Oh, I don't know how to do that. I think you're much better at that than me. I'm still learning about self-care and trying to balance being ambitious and really trying to build the business and the firm that we're trying to build. I think you have to take at least some time for yourself every day, you know, whether it's 30 minutes, whether or not it's an hour, whether or not you're walking your dog, taking a walk, meditating, just having a peaceful breakfast with your loved one, making a phone call to your kids, taking your kids to school. I just think that you've got to have a little bit of time for yourself.
Oh, I agree. And I think it's really difficult to be ambitious if you don't have your shit together.
Right. How are you going to help others?
Exactly. You've got to be taking care of yourself so you can take care of, your spouse, your children, your coworkers. You can really step up to the plate. And I know at times, like, it wanes for me as well, just because life takes over and things happen. But in order to present my best self, and, I'm a glass half full kind of person. Dawn, so are you.
Absolutely.
So, when you feel that way and you believe that way, you've got to take that time for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Build yourself up. Get your energy going. No matter what you're facing for that day, just make sure that you're going into that day with positive energy, which is contagious, by the way.
Oh, it is.
Energy.
It's like the energy in the room.
Yep.
Most definitely. Yep. I always feel it. Like when I'm with you, I feel that energy, and with Kellye. And I think that's why we vibe so well.
Yeah.
Is because even if there's something that's like a bit heavy, we still have that vibing, venting.
That's
and
right.
It's like self-care.
It is.
Most
it
definitely.
Is. I love
this
it.
is self-care. We're here for self-care.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We love the questions. So if you have any specific questions for us, please comment below or send an email to hello@ladiesinlaw.com.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in law and business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.